Hello, hello, hello. It's been so long since I've actually posted a video on my YouTube channel, not for any particular reason other than the fact that life is happening and I've been learning a lot. So, kind of going back to our roots, talking about the higher self, the way that we validate ourselves, the way that people look for their identity outside of them rather than within. This concept has been really coming in for me a lot, mostly because I've been working on not abandoning myself. And what that means to me is I've more deeply connected to the version of myself that I think new age spirituality terms is like the higher self. But essentially what it is for me is it's this energetic understanding of who I am, the highest version of who I am, without the fear, without the shame, without the avoidancy, without all these particular worldly definitions or labels. And I've come to realize how much I was relying on my physical reality to define who I am and allowing my identity and the power of who I am to be placed in the hands of things outside of myself. And with that being said, I've been coming to this realization of how much I've actually abandoned myself. And I've known it. Don't get me wrong, you can ask the people in my life. I've been pretty honest and straightforward about how much I've abandoned myself in the sense of avoiding the parts of me that I don't actually want to have to experience. And more recently, just coming to terms with the fact that the reason I was avoiding myself isn't because I don't want to be that version of myself. It's because of what happens when I'm that version of myself. And what that looks like is, you're sitting in this high, powerful version of who you are, who you believe yourself to be, who you know yourself to be. And in the energetic resonance of that, you start manifesting all the things that you know that your soul has wanted. And that was really terrifying for me. Because in the face of those physical reality shifts and those things coming in, you have the security of these opportunities and this love that you thought you'd never really experienced. And then it comes in and you realize oh my gosh, these are all the fears that I still have in conjunction with receiving these things. And so they don't come in to give to you. They don't come in to just be this light energy that essentially allows you to use it as a identity marker. It comes in to show you who you are being and who you're comfortable, the energy that you're comfortable embodying within yourself and what parts of yourself you're still scared of. And for me, I have just realized how much I'm terrified and have been avoiding myself because I'm terrified that when things start coming in, that I won't be able to I'll lose myself in them. I won't be able to hold myself in the highest regard of who I know myself to be in the asset of boundaries, energetic boundaries, or being able to kind of separate what I know to be true within myself versus reality and physical reality, and making sure that I'm not making decisions and choices without discernment. I think the hardest part has been, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're pretty intuitive, to be fair, but the hardest part is there's this intuitive knowing inside of you. And when you realize that your physical reality isn't matching, you want to almost abandon the boundaries, or you don't always choose the idea of allowing that thing to leave. Does that make sense? I think how I would explain it for myself is that I have had relationships or connections that felt really deeply resonant, and I loved them a lot, but I was so terrified of them leaving that my boundaries just were non-existent, which pulled me away from myself and created the. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this concept because I feel like it's really important for us to understand that in an element of seeking things outside of ourselves to validate who we are, we actually become reliant and dependent upon our physical reality shifting before we give ourselves permission to be who we are. And that eliminates this aspect of authenticity. It creates this contradiction between who we're allowing ourselves to be versus the life that we are currently living. And it almost becomes, we become like this product of this life that is just playing out in front of us rather than choosing the life that we want. And I don't want this to be received in like this like spiritual like manifestation type of way, although I have deeply experienced what it's like to embody the decisions and the energy and the choices and the discernment and the lifestyle of my higher self. And was that terrifying? Yeah. And did it a lot come up in that? Yes. Did I have to work through all the fears and insecurities of abandonment, of rejection, of judgment, all these things? Absolutely. I think my biggest fear was always losing love. It was always feeling this deep amount of connection to something or receiving this amount of love or attention and not knowing what to do with it and then being able to have no concept of who I am in it. And I thought that 7 years ago I knew who I was. Like, you can go back on my YouTube and see my videos, and I promise you, like, I was being authentic to myself then. But if you contrast the energy of who I am now to who I was back then, completely different. And I really was living in the version of my higher self that I understood at the time, and living through the peaks and valleys of understanding my fear of myself. I've learned how to be in connection with myself without fearing the entrance or the receptivity of what that brings into my life. And I think that it just speaks to how powerful we are as individuals and how we aren't actually fearful of who we are, or we're fearful of the things that come when we are who we know we are. And embodying that energy and allowing our decisions and our actions to align with that version of ourselves, whatever that may look like for you. Um, but I think that in this concept of the higher self embodiment, I don't want it to come across as that you're separate from this version of yourself. I want it to come across as like you're utilizing the energy of who you know yourself to be as a marker, as a energetic point in which you can match. And rather than using something outside of you, or even like thoughts, you could think about being on a beach to like manifest being on a beach. I think for me, I've had the most success in recognizing that the version of me that I know has the life that I want, um, and embodying that energy, meditating with that energy, sitting with that energy rather than fearing it, has it's paid off, but it hasn't been easy, to be fair. It's taken a lot of time to build that relationship and not run away from it. I'm also not perfect yet, so we'll see how that goes. But I honestly just wanted to create this video to remind you that your greatest gifts lie within you. The version of you that you know yourself to be is available to you all the time. And it will evolve too as you like grow, as you go deeper into witnessing life. Those things the way that you see your higher self may fluctuate or may shift. I mean, I was disconnected from that energy for quite a long time because I really wasn't in a place of believing in myself or feeling like I was going to be able to give that version of myself what she needed. And I just avoided it rather than actually connecting to it. And all this to say that your authentic self is the most powerful version of yourself that you'll ever experience. And it will also bring in the life that you are wanting to live. But the beauty of that is that even those external factors don't seem to be as, you don't seem to be as reliant on them when you're just focused on embodying and embracing who you know yourself to be. So I hope that this helps you fall deeper in love with yourself in the sense of acceptance and acknowledgement and honesty within who you know yourself to be, how you know yourself, like what you're feeling in connection to this higher version of yourself. Because sometimes just going inward and thinking, oh, I'm focusing on myself isn't always allowing us to grow and move in the direction that we want to move. But when we have this image of the higher self and this version of who we know makes the discerned choices, feels their feelings, or does these like things that we want to be doing, it might make it easier for us to motivate ourselves to align to that energy. But it can also make it more difficult. So you never know. I am sending you so much love. Thank you for joining me back on the YouTube channel, and I will talk to you soon.